Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 298. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me at the Casa de Cold Coffee on just an absolutely beautiful Thursday afternoon. We are spoiled, my friend. It is December 10th here in the desert, Las Vegas. I'm rolling in with some shorts on and some flip-flops. I got a little jacket on, but to be honest with you, it's just a little light, little Adidas jacket. I really don't even need it on.
But you wear that same shit in winter.
I do.
Like, you go overseas, I think in Seoul, Korea, it was cold as shit. The snow was coming down. The wind was going. You had shorts on. And I swear you had, if not the same sort of Adidas blazer, one just like it.
I got a couple of these, but yeah, that's pretty much my uniform.
Which is crazy because you'll sit in my cold ass hotel room and literally shiver more than you were in Seoul, Korea.
That's true.
When the wind was literally cutting to the bone, it was so cold.
It was. That was definitely a mind over matter, but it helped us find a wonderful bar because I was like, we got to go into the closest bar we can find.
Well, we went into a few close ones.
We did go to a few.
But it was one of the greatest bars ever.
Listen,
But yes, it's 63 degrees outside right now.
December 10th, baby. Can't beat that.
Ridiculous.
Love living in Las Vegas. All right, listen, we're going to get into some MMA, but I got to come to you with a little bit of first world problems here.
Uh-oh.
But I need some help because, and maybe if anybody else wants to chime in and hit me up on Twitter, give me some feedback, let me know. But I've got some important decision-making to do here. I got the iPhone 12 for myself. I was pretty excited about that. I got the iPhone 12 Pro. I did not get the Max.
Is that the newest one?
Yeah, it's the newest one. I didn't get the Max, which is the larger one. I like the smaller one so I can text with one hand because it bugs me when you have to use two hands to text.
As I'm holding my phone with my two hands.
Wow. iPhone 12 Pro. So anyway, I ordered it, and I paid off my iPhone 10, so I got a nice deal on it. And I ordered a case with it as well, right? You got to put a case on these phones. I mean, they're expensive. Yep. You can't use them without a case. They sent me the case. It's the what's it called? The Gator or something. I don't remember.
Gators.
Is it Gator? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Gator makes some.
One of those nice ones. They're nice.
The hard shell ones.
The hard shell ones, right? The thing is, it's got sparkles on it.
Yeah. Did you not notice that?
When I ordered it, I thought it was just a clear one, right? Like I literally thought it was just a clear one. It came. And I'm pretty sure this is intended for like 16-year-old girls or something.
Or your wife?
Or my wife, maybe. It's got
I don't know if your wife would want to pull that.
In fact, my wife looked at me and said, "You absolutely cannot walk around with that." So, but I'll say this:
how much did it cost?
I think like $50 or something. But so here's the deal. So I was like, "You're right. I can't walk around with this bar, but it feels good. It's comfortable. It's not one of those hard ones. I think they." It's a little.
It snaps into two pieces. Right?
Yeah, no. It's just one piece, but it just kind of slides in there. Yeah, but it feels good.
Is it gel?
It's gel. Yeah, they call it the gel.
Okay, I thought it was I thought it was two pieces.
But it's comfortable in my hand. I like the way the buttons feel. I like the way the grips feel. It's got all this stuff, but sparkles, right? So I get on the phone with T-Mobile and I'm like, look, here's what happened, and they help me out and they send me another one, right? So they send me this clear one from Apple, and I put it on, and I don't like it.
What's the giant circle thing?
I think it's just a design thing, and it's supposed to have like a MagSafe. I think it shows where it charges or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, does this do a wireless charge?
Yeah, where you can just set it on the little thing.
This is probably telling you where to put it.
Exactly. That's what it's for. I think that's what it's for. But anyway.
Or to put one of those weird things that people put on the back of their phones.
The little pop things or whatever.
Pop things. Put your pop here.
It's slick. It doesn't feel good, and it's too hard in my hand. It's not comfortable in my hand. But now I don't know. They've already sent me one replacement. I don't know if they're going to send me another replacement.
What's this MagSafe?
So I don't know. Can I walk around with a phone with sparkles on it? Is it just about whether I'm confident in myself enough?
I would just go to Amazon and order a different one.
Order one. This one is kind of.
But I mean, I don't mind the hard plastic one.
It's not as comfortable in my hand though.
Yeah, but it feels sturdier than the.
It definitely feels sturdier.
But I mean, hey, it's 2020, dog. If you want to rock sparkles, you could rock sparkles.
So I can rock sparkles? I mean,
if you wouldn't have noticed eventually I wouldn't have noticed it. Eventually, if you sat your phone upside down and I saw the bottom, I probably would see it and be like, yo, what's up with the sparkles? But
it didn't just jump out at you right away?
No, but now I cannot not notice the sparkles on the back of it. So I don't mind the clear case. That wireless charge technology is fantastic.
Charge is awesome, man. You just set it on there. It's easy.
I wonder if there's something with that particular case because I felt if it's magnetic or something, because when I was touching the ring and that thing below it, it's very sturdy. It looks like I don't know, something about it.
Yeah, this is the official Apple one, but I don't like it. So now
I bet it would
I
grow
don't
on
want
you.
to cough up another $50.
Oh,
man.
don't do that, man. That's ridiculous. But I mean, if you're worried about, I think if you're more worried about people talking about your sparkles,
Yeah,
I think you would get used to the slick hard case one.
but I don't want it to not feel good in my hand. I'm like, I spent good money on this phone, and then for it not to feel comfortable in my hand.
But how often? It's not like it's going to be in your hand all day long.
Bro, it's in my hand all day, man. Sending texts and stuff like. Well, no, I actually text more on my computer than anything.
Yeah, I'd hard case it.
Hard case it, huh?
But yeah,
tough decisions to make.
At least
man.
it's not pink sparkles, bro.
It's not pink. Yeah, it was supposed to be clear, and it is clear, but it's clear with some sparkles in it. The phone itself is blue. That's what's giving it the color there. So it's the phone that's blue.
Or just rock it, dog. Just be confident.
Just roll with my sparkles.
You're like, yeah. So what?
Yeah, I got sparkles.
So what? I got sparkles. I'm a superstar. I sparkle, dog.
So that's been the big story of my life this week is just trying to figure out if I can roll with the sparkles or not. That's kind of where I stand in life.
I haven't bought a case from well, I guess Heather had one from T-Mobile. I just usually have the mind. I just go straight to Amazon afterwards and just hit usually Amazon ones or look for the reviews. But it is nice when you get it usually with the phone, they'll space it out if you want to do it. So that's always a decent option.
They were rolling it in with the pricing on it.
But I'm surprised you didn't get the big one. But I guess half the time people get the phones to watch.
Most people use their screens a lot. Yeah, I don't really watch stuff. I'm so in front of my computer all the time that I don't watch stuff on my phone. So I prefer the smaller one just so that I can text with one hand.
You're afraid it wouldn't fit in your
basically
short
when
pockets.
I'm driving. Yeah, it's got to fit in my short pockets too. It's got to, the cargo shorts are rocking. It's got to fit in there, man. That's part of the uniform. Oh man. All right, well, this is UFC 256 this week. Figueiredo versus Moreno. Last pay-per-view of. Oh my God, might have to do a pickup there.
We don't do edits. You all right?
Last pay-per-view of the year.
I wonder what caused it. What should we set up the scene? Should we set up the scene? It's not quite as unique as last time, but John came over and we were getting ready to roll in it, and I remembered that. Hey, we still got a little buffer juice left over.
Buffer juice, you say? All right. Well, that could be taken a lot of different ways. But we do have a little bit left of Puncher's Chance Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And yes, a little bit of that did go down the wrong way there for a second. Yeah, the buffer juice went down the wrong way.
Buffer juice went down the wrong way in your throat.
By the way, it is good. We said it last week, but I'll give it another plug. Puncher's Chance. If you see it in your stores, buy it. It's good. I'm just having mine on the rocks. You see
I'm sparkling mine out a little bit.
You got a little ginger ale. Yeah, you got sparkles in your drink. I got sparkles in my phone. You got sparkles in your drink. But yeah, we do have a little bit of Puncher's Chance. So a little bit of it went down the wrong way there. So I apologize. That is not probably the plug that Mr. Buffer was looking for there. But it certainly does still taste very good. So UFC 256 is this week. It's a fun card. We'll get into it in a little bit. But I did want to talk about a couple things first. A couple big stories. One stemming from last week, and a lot of it has been discussed this week, but it's those UFC releases. UFC President Dana White said, hey, man, expect 60 more of those bad boys to come. And so, a lot of people have been pretty freaking out about it. I actually wrote a piece on it. Simon Simona, our editor over at MMA Junkie, actually asked me to write it. He's like, hey, man, would you put something together on it? And I was like, well, just so you know, it might not be exactly what you're looking for from me, but I definitely will. Because for me, the headline we ended up using was why the UFC's upcoming serious cuts shouldn't come as a shock. So if you didn't get a chance to read it, check it out. It's kind of a long read, I'll be honest with you, but I think it's a pretty thorough look at the whole situation. The first thing was, I saw people, oh, the sky is falling. I'm like, guys, this happens all the time. Like, we've done this years after years after years. And I literally just went to the back end of MMA Junkie and just searched. I think the search term I used was roster purge, and just to see what came up. And I found story from 2009, story from 2010, story from 2012, story from 2015 that we've written at MMA Junkie, where they do have
how
these,
many people?
Like 30 to 50, depending on the situation. So yeah, so it's happened before, and it seems to happen every couple of years. And so that's the first thing I want to tell people is, hey, look, this is not the first time it's happened. But I did want to discuss why it happened, and it was actually cool. The folks at the UFC were willing to talk to me about an exact roster number, which I've never seen them do before, but they were kind enough to do it. On Monday of this week, there were 659 fighters under contract with the UFC. So they gave me an exact figure.
That's crazy.
Which I'd never seen them do before. So I thought that was cool.
Well, because they've always said before it was usually around 450 or so.
Right. They told me the exact number, 659. And then, I asked them what the targeted number should be, like what they think is right, and they said between about 575 and 600 is what we need.
Still a big roster.
And it's cool because I had these conversations before with dating all the way back to Joe Silva, but also with Sean Shelby, with Mick Maynard, but it's always been off record because they're not allowed to go on record, where they basically explain how they get to the number, and I just kind of lay that out. So for a lot of people listening to this, they probably know, but if you've ever wondered and you don't, I laid it out there in exactly how they figure it out. And they said, look, next year we're expecting to do 42 cards, so 42 events with 12 to 13 fights on them per event. That's normally our average is 12 to 13. Now, obviously, in COVID-19 times, these late scratches, sometimes that's not the case. But so take 42, multiply it times 12 and a half, and then multiply it again by 2, obviously, because there's 2 fighters per fight, of course. And now you have a number of how many fights we're going to have. Then you figure that everybody on the roster we want them to fight is going to fight 2 to 3 times. So just divide it by 2.5, and you get a number, and you come up with that 575 to 600 number right in there, so you get a range. So just walk through the math of how they get there. So anyway, if you want some insight into how they do it, it's simple, but I don't know that I've ever seen somebody really, I've heard it over and over and over for years.
Yeah.
But it made me realize I've never actually just kind of written it down for somebody that may not know, like how they get to that number, of how many people they need and why. And actually, you come to a number, by the way, that's much less than 575 to 600 if you do that, like, ideal scenario. But then you add in what they're dealing with right now, of course, is COVID-19 scratches are scratching a lot of fights.
Yeah.
International travel visas are incredibly tough to get. So you basically have to build fat into the roster so that you've got replacements and that sort of thing. So anyway, and it was cool, too, because we did have a couple of on-record quotes from Joe Silva and Sean Shelby that they gave us way back in 2013 when we were doing a USA Today MMA publication, the 25 most powerful people in MMA, which was kind of like a book that came out. I don't know if I don't remember if we called it a book. I mean, it's kind of like a magazine, but it was bigger than that. I still have a couple copies of it. It was pretty cool that USA Today did. It was actually out on newsstands. But anyway, they did allow us. The UFC allowed us to get, and Ben Folks did the interview with Joe Silva and Sean Shelby, and they talked about how cutting fighters is the absolute worst part of the job. I mean, they hate it. It's they realize how difficult it is, how what you're doing to these people, but it's a necessary part of the job. Mm-hmm. And their job is to continually bring fresh people to the table and continue to bring fresh contenders, which is basically a big explanation. A lot of it was a perfect scenario of why Yoel Romero. The guy's 43. He's had 4 title opportunities. He hasn't gotten there. He's probably going to beat some of your up-and-comers. The other thing I heard about Yoel Romero behind the scenes is that he had turned down a fight with Derek Brunson recently as well, and I think they were starting to feel that he was getting very, very tough to matchmake. He only wanted title fights and nothing else, and because of so you add in that factor as well, and especially right now, how often we've heard Dana say, hey, man, I need guys that are willing to fight, especially right now, man. We need to go. Like, I just need fights. And I think Yoel was kind of holding out for title fights that they felt he probably wasn't ever going to win or wasn't necessarily going to deserve when you've got some of those other contenders. So they had to move on. So that was a big one. And we kind of addressed that in that piece as well. And I think if you read that, you can kind of see their logic and their thinking on it. The other one that people have been kind of tying into this whole roster move that I don't think is necessarily roster cut related, and that is Anthony Johnson moving to Bellator. I don't know if anybody will ever admit it or not, but I bet it's drug test related, and it might be weed related. I mean, we know how much Anthony Johnson is open to enjoying it. I think these Nevada tests, all the Nevada tests and the suspensions that have been coming up because of marijuana, I think they might have scared him off a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know so much about the weed, because now we have active fighters talking about smoking weed. I think if they were worried about fighters, especially someone like that, when it comes to just marijuana, I'm not too.
But Nevada's suspending people for it, and all the fights are in Nevada.
Yeah, we got Jamil Jamal Hill fucking talking about how he just likes to smoke weed.
Yeah.
So you're getting fighters, more and more fighters actively just talking about how they smoke weed on their off their off days.
But they're getting suspended. But he's coming back from a suspension, and he lost a win. They overturned.
And he still likes to do it.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So if you're Anthony Johnson and you admit that you love smoking weed and you do it on the daily, wouldn't it be better to be like, all their fights are in Nevada right now.
Yeah.
Nevada's suspending people for weed. If I go to Bellator, I'm doing all my stuff out there in Mohegan Sun, and they're not suspending people for weed.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm better off over there.
I don't know. I think more it was I think there were issues that stemmed back from when he was having a lot of health issues when he was cutting weight multiple times, and I think they had. I don't know if maybe in the process of when he left, if he just burned some bridge that just maybe people weren't really willing to just overlook at some point. I know he was always nice to me as a staff member dealing with him, but I did remember hearing rumblings of that there were other arguments and stuff sort of snap back at something that maybe would, but I don't know. You figured that would
used
kind
to have
of
a bit of a chip on his shoulder,
yeah,
for sure.
and he did, and he did with, I guess with reason, but at that point, I think in time, I'm sure that
probably because he wasn't smoking weed every day.
Yeah, I'm sure at time, it's been so long that you would think any sort of bad feelings would have been squashed by now of any arguments or something that would happen. But I think it could have just been, Dana's always been quick to say, like, he wants to make sure that there's a lot of upside to these guys coming in. They might see Anthony as coming in and being able to give him a good fight, maybe here or there.
Right.
But for the kind of money that he wanted, they might have just thought that, for the kind of money we're gonna have to show, we'll probably get one good one out of him before, because if they throw him to the wolves, he's still always gonna have power. But this is a guy that's been out of it for a while. His weight has fluctuated quite a bit.
Sure.
So if he has to
we
come
weren't
back
sure if he was going to come back as maybe a heavyweight.
And that's it.
As big as he had gotten. He's saying light heavy, but he may fight heavy a little bit.
Light heavy, at this point, I think he would be killing himself. Last time I saw him, he had to have been
he was
285, 300. But, he's a big guy. Like, him wearing 300 and me wearing 300 look totally different.
A little bit different.
Totally different. But he's going to have to get down to – I don't foresee him ever being able to make light heavy without killing himself. And I say that with love because he's the kind of guy that will kill himself.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching and looking in his eyes, seeing the jaundice, seeing other stuff that his kidneys were just –
eyes yellow.
Literally.
The pupils were yellow in his eyes as he's being basically drugged to the scale. They're basically dragging
himself to get in there. And – all the credit to his discipline to want to do that sort of thing, but at some point, you almost have to stop him from trying to do something like that. So maybe there was a discussion where he was like, I only want to fight light heavy, and they're like, dude, you need to go heavy. And if they couldn't agree on where they wanted to stick him, light heavy, maybe it was just other fundamental things, but I'm not too sure about the weed thing, especially now. I feel like that whole thing's sort of changing. Even Dana, I think he agrees that there's an issue because it's Nevada's has an issue.
Right.
But I honestly don't think that the higher ups of the UFC really even have a beef about.
Oh, I know they
like
don't
fighters
care.
smoking weed or anything.
I know they don't care. I think I think it's the Nevada regulations are outdated. They're archaic and they need to be updated. They need to be changed. And I know that behind the scenes they are trying to work with the commission a little bit. Jeff Nowitzki, I've talked to him a little. He said, look, we're trying to educate them as well, trying to get some change done. And I think it will change, but I just wondered if because it was taking Anthony Johnson so long to book a fight, right? Like he's talking about this comeback, but how long? Like, how hard is it to get a fight? You know what I mean?
I'm so surprised he's trying to do light heavy. That's just ridiculous.
I know. I haven't seen him in a few months, but the last time we saw him, he was big.
I would need to see a completely different Anthony Johnson than the last one that I saw him a couple times at the BKFC stuff. Like light heavy just seems like out of this world. Like he would have, from where I saw him, easily would have been a 60, 70 pound cut that he would have needed, and that's the kind of thing that would just kill you. But going back to the cuts, there was a time I remember a long time ago. I almost sent you a picture. This is when I still worked at the UFC. I remember one day we were inside the studio shooting some sort of video interview or whatever. I remember I came outside, and on top of a file cabinet was a just small box that had files, Pat Barry's name was on one of the folders. Had all these different guys, and these were all the guys that were just recently cut. And I remember just thinking, like, holy cow, I was like, what's going on with this? It's like, oh, these guys just getting let go. And I took a pic, and I was like, I should send this. And I was like, no, you shouldn't. I was like, I don't know if this is the kind of stuff that people a lot of times talk about. But it at the time was probably 20 or 30 different ones that they were moving them out of the file cabinet of something or whatever. But I think...
I had no idea that they had, like, employee files. Oh, excuse me. Contractor files on these people. I had no idea.
But you never know. I guess maybe that it probably is just that, just keeping the contract things where they're at or something. But somebody had them in something. But, especially when it comes in the roster, what's different now, even though they say that these cuts have always happened, they never had to do this many events before.
Right.
The last few years with these deals and so many things that they're just bringing in so many fighters that they used to be able to, they would have a certain. I remember Dana always used to be. It was like 400, 450, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Was like the sweet spot of that was what the range was. So it's interesting to hear them say, 600 is the number now because they have all this other one, but. And you can't discount the fact, and I know a lot of people are saying it with the Contender Series. Looking at, the whole job for these matchmakers is to keep finding this new talent. And eventually you got an idea in their head, well, might as well just here's another way where we can constantly be bringing guys in, throw them in the mix, and make it legit why we're able to give them a contract instead of just bringing a new guy in and bringing him in, throwing him on the undercard of an event.
Right.
Nobody's ever seen him. Nobody's ever done whatever.
Yeah, you want to give a reason to tune in. Like, oh, he made it, not just we just signed a guy.
Right. So now here they are putting a show together, being able to televise it, getting these guys, getting a fight out of them so people see what's going on. And then getting these new guys in the contract, and it's been brought up, even when I was talked to Dane at some point, I was like, all these guys that are coming in, is this like a different pile of guys than the old pile? And it's like, no, it's the same pile of guys, and at some point it just has to give.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many contracts they gave out this year, 40?
Oh yeah.
So roughly 40. So it's just kind of interesting that the magic number of how many people getting cut a year is matching up with how many are just being brought in
and this
just by the Contender Series.
I know a lot of people point towards it as a cost-saving maneuver, right? Like a labor-saving maneuver. I will say I spoke to 3 different people, only one of them on record, and that person was Dana White. The other 2 were off record, but they swore to me, and I know nobody's going to believe, they swore to me, when we have these discussions about cutting people, we do not talk about how much they make. We're not looking at contracts to say.
Well, you don't even have to talk about it. It's already understood. If you got guys coming in on tier 1 and then everybody else on the roster, just say it goes up to tier 10. Tier 10 is what your champs and your pay-per-view guys. If everybody coming on the show already is at the tier 1 level, everybody above it's higher. Anybody else that gets replaced is automatically a cost savings.
It's just understood.
It's just understood. So it's not like they have to be like, well, I can 100% tell you, John, we never ever actually said anything about salary cuts because it's already understood.
Fair.
That by rotating their members, and I don't hate them for it. I mean, like it's understood, especially in the environment. And I said a little bit about this in a post I put on our Patreon. In this date,
Patreon.com/MMA Roadshow for as little as $3 a month.
For as little as $3 a month,
you can support us,
and you could read my stupid rants. It just makes sense in the sense of if you take out one huge income wing of how the UFC makes their monies, being live events, you have to offset that somewhere.
Right.
So if they found a way to, one, put a show, which they're actually getting paid to put the show on, they're cutting their costs of where they're actually putting the show, so they're saving money on that. They own the building, so they also even got rid of the whole warehouse that they used to rent or whatever, so there's cost savings there. They're able to make money off the show, but then bring new fighters in, and then know that these guys automatically are going to be getting a couple fights or at some particular porch. You're giving yourself a way to ease up the fact of releasing some higher ticket values that you have while still maintaining enough roster to put on whatever this new number of fights that they're doing every year. So even if they don't go in thinking, oh, well, the whole reason of the Contender Series is to be able to bring guys in so we can get new guys for less money, it's just an understood outcome of what they are doing. If
now their counterpoint to that was, listen, there's no guarantee that they stay there for long, and they pointed to guys like Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley, I think, made like 30-30 in like his 4th UFC fight or 3rd UFC fight. Macy Barber was another one. Like when she fought Roxanne Modafferi, I put in the story.
Yep.
Macy made 29-29. Roxy made like 31-31, and that was like Roxy's 50th professional fight, and it was Macy's 9th, and it was like
right.
a 4th for UFC. So that's their counterpoint to that. It's like, look, you are right. When we bring them in, they're on a lower level. But there's no guarantee that they stay there for long.
Sure.
If you get into the rankings and you get, like you shoot up real quick. So it's not like, hey, we can suppress that salary for however long.
Yeah, but they still did. So even like you said, though, say they make it in their 4th fight, they can keep that same salary for 3 fights. They're making $30,000 total. Say if they win, they're getting 10-10-10. For 3 fights, they're already saving. If you replace one person on the roster that makes 30 and 30, you get rid of that person. I can get 3 fights out of somebody that's on a 10-10-10, a 10-10 contract
right.
out of it. I mean, I get what they're trying to say, but they know that by rotating out higher value ones, and it makes sense. I mean, I don't fault them for it.
Right.
I mean, it just makes business, because if the alternative is we always want to love all these higher guys, we're going to give them everything that they own. We're going to make sure they can fight their contract out and then go out into the sunset, and we can keep them forever and ever. They're never going to make money currently.
True.
I mean, if it was a different scenario, I think people could be more, have reason to take issue with the fact of people that they love and respect that have given a lot, because it's the difference of whether the UFC survives or doesn't, because they don't find some ways to cut. Like, I have friends that work there; they haven't cut any staff, besides some shitty little things that have happened off to the side.
Kind of little stuff. I know. It was so funny. So Dana told me that too. He was like, look, if we were trying to cut salaries, he's like, what you do is lay off staff like everybody else has. He's like, I haven't laid off anybody. And I was like, well,
there have been a couple.
I know one guy that got laid off.
I know a few that have been sort of off to the side. But
they weren't, obviously, well.
But they didn't do any massive sort
right.
of like sweeping cuts that you see. But I mean,
didn't have furloughs like we had to deal with.
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't do anything like that. They paid everybody the full rate the whole time. Even what? There was like 2 months, right, where a lot of people weren't working at all.
They didn't even go into the office.
Didn't even go, and there was no remote working. It was
right.
just like you're just at home getting paid. So
yeah.
they do deserve some credit for that.
Yeah, and so I mean, the fact that they're able to do that, but they do still, as much as Dana and them says, we run our thing, and they put they do the production, they do the other stuff, but they still have an overlord over top that is expecting money. It's not like WME is like, we just bought the UFC so they could just live on, and
right.
we love having them. They need to have something coming.
Yeah, they want the revenue coming in.
So without the live events happening, and the understanding always was that the live show, the gate always took care of the production,
right.
paid all the crew, paid the staff that would eventually work it, and it would have helped pay a portion of the actual fighter pay.
Right.
So without that, everything that you take out of it, the ESPN money, a lot of the ESPN money, everybody's like, oh, well, you're getting 100-some million, whatever, every year. Now, all that doesn't just go to put on the shows and do it. A lot of that goes, some of that goes to WME. Some of that goes to Dana's salary. Mm-hmm. Some of that goes to all these other guys. That's how especially even when Frank and Lorenzo were still there, they used to take out these massive loans that would allow the business to operate for another couple years or so. But they would all take a little chunk.
Oh, yeah.
They take a chunk, I'll take a chunk. And then by the time that the bills due, we take money from something else, we pay that little thing, and then it just keeps going. This is like this revolving line of credit. So now take the fact that the live events are gone, you have a whole revenue stream that's gone. So they have to find the money somewhere. And as shitty as it is, because we love these guys that are getting let go, if it's the difference of them being able to sort of maintain the level of events, maintain the level of production, and still bring new fighters in. I know I love the Contender Series.
I love it.
Every fighter that I've seen come through there, whether or not it sucks that they might eventually be replacing another gentleman or lady that I've loved watching for years, I enjoy every bit of it, and like half of those guys, they're killers. When they come up on the rosters and we have to do our staff picks, I'm like, oh wait, this guy went through Dana White's Contender Series. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with that one. So we're getting value from that, and if it's helping the UFC survive until we can get beyond the pandemic, let them get through this time. Let them survive. Let them make the money. It sucks for the ones. I don't want them to get rid of a lot of our ones, but if it helps them get through to when live events can start happening, then get mad if they cut off somebody that you love. Because right now, who hasn't went to a restaurant or hasn't went to a business where some of your favorite people that you've come to enjoy dining with, if it's like your favorite restaurant, or if your favorite restaurant cuts down, everybody's having to make concessions somewhere, and the UFC is no different. It just, everybody wants to think that, it's the UFC. They're the largest MMA promoter in the world. They wouldn't have to just cut people to cut people. And it's not sexy to say, oh, hey, we need to make financial decisions to stay afloat. But, of course they have to. I mean, if Abu Dhabi, if they didn't kick in for that first Abu Dhabi, do you think they would have went there? No,
absolutely not.
So it is what it is, but it's just crazy. But I think it's just blown. It's really being blown up with the whole how many rosters are cut now, because a lot of people have noticed the fact that they've created a mechanism to bring in a whole bunch of new fighters for cheap. That unfortunately, at this whole process, a lot of these older ones are being let go. But there's no guarantee that even without the Contender Series, a lot of these older fighters would still be getting let go, just as a cut to save money. But it still sucks.
Well, you talk about the financial thing. It kind of leads right into the other big news of the day, which happened just as we were sitting down here. But the class was certified in the class action suit with Kung Lee, Nate Quarry, John Fitch against the UFC. It was certified today, just a little bit before we started talking.
It's been going on for so long.
I believe it was filed in 2014 was when it was filed. So we're talking about 6 years that it's been going on. And if you're not familiar with the case, obviously it's complicated when you talk about antitrust suits and that sort of thing. There's a lot to it, but essentially, the lawsuit alleges that there was artificial suppression of fighter pay, and the damages were in the range of somewhere between $800 million and $1.6 billion. Now, here's the interesting part about that: in antitrust suits, the damages can be tripled. So that means that if the judge were to say that, yes, absolutely, we see that fighter pay was artificially suppressed to the tune of $1.6 billion, and this was of a period of time between December 2010 and June 2017, then in terms of damages, they can then triple that amount. So you could be talking,
holy cow,
$4.8 billion in damages potentially on the table against the UFC. Now, there's about 1,200 fighters. It's essentially anybody that fought in the UFC between December 2010 and June 2017. So it's about 1,200 fighters. This is pretty crazy, man. If I'm doing my math right, if you take $4.8 billion and divide it by 1,200, I believe you're talking $4 million a fighter.
Wow.
If it was at the maximum. Now, 6 years worth of legal fees. I imagine a big chunk of that is not ever going to make it to a fighter. And again, that's only if it's at the max damage, where we don't know what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen next. First they have to prove the damages again, I believe, and then it's up to the judge to decide a damage there. So that's all going to be playing out over the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if further documents are uncovered and revealed that reveal more about the UFC's finances, and it'll be interesting to see what happens if it does end up being a $4.8 billion judgment. Now, again, that's pie in the sky. That's the super max, whatever. That'd be the absolute most. That would, I imagine, be pretty crippling to the UFC right now. I mean, they're making money, but you'd be digging out for a long time at $4.8 billion.
That's like silver bullet, kill the werewolf, done.
I'm telling you, man, that'd be crazy to see what would have to be done at that point.
I mean,
there'd be some reorganization.
Kung Lee's worth every penny of that, dog.
I'm telling you, man, he fought the good fight. So definitely worth watching there. Again, there's a lot of journalists out there that are really heavy into that business side of things that are a lot more knowledgeable on that. So I'll defer to them a little bit in being a bit more of an expert on, how
ring
this
sizes.
is exactly going to go and things like that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you. Like octagon sizes.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it, jackass.
There will be a big octagon on this one, guys.
Oh, man. That's... Just
I got your small octagon right here.
Right there. Just jab it right into me. But definitely, keep an eye on that because it is going to be a big story in how the UFC operates.
Huge. It's huge.
Equally as big, I know this is what everybody wants to hear. I started doing interviews at home again. I hardly ever did interviews through this whole pandemic, and I'm going to tell you why. When this whole pandemic started and we basically knew we were going to be doing school from home and everything from home, and at home all the time. My office at the time was in my master bedroom, and I was like, dude, I cannot spend all day every day in one single room of my house.
My life is in this. I got a window.
You sleep in a different place, right?
That's true. I guess I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I was like sleeping, waking up, taking a shower, going and sitting down at my desk, and I'm spending the whole day. I was like, I can't do this. So I moved my office into this room that had been like my kid's play area.
Yeah.
Because he was, it was just
what do you call that? It's like an intermediate little room because it's not like a room. It's like a space in between two bedrooms. It's upstairs. It's not like a foyer. It's like a.
No, I don't know what you'd call it because you're right. It's a room, but it doesn't have walls. It doesn't have one wall, right? Like it's got three walls.
Yeah, it's not enclosed.
It's not enclosed. There you go.
So if you leave one bedroom and you go down the hallway to connect to the main bedroom, there's that little space off to the left. And a lot of the houses, I think Fiasco has the same thing sort of at his house. I'm not sure what you call that room. But I think what you did with that made perfect sense because it's much more open. So my studio is like a second. In this house, I don't know if this would have been a formal dining room or a second living room. When I call it a second living room, it makes it sound like I really do live like in a big place. And the palatial grounds, I have 2 living rooms. But your setup's good now.
East living room.
This is the east. North, south, east, west. No, this is the west. This is the west wing. But no, I like your setup now because you probably feel a lot more engaged with the family as well because when you're in the bedroom, you're in a separate little room, but at least in your room where you're at now, all the sound floats upstairs. Well, I guess that maybe is not as good.
There you go. That was the drawback.
Never mind.
So here's the thing is, me, so I start doing an interview and
oh shit.
Not only is it am I hearing the family, which I can deal with. Like I don't mind, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't bother me. But they can hear me.
Oh yeah.
And the John Morgan voice doesn't have a lot of volume control on it.
Remember when we tried to do a podcast from one of the airport lounges and I remember they came up to us like, "Can you guys quiet down?" And then next thing they came back up and they're like, "Yeah, you're not being quiet." I was like, "It's his voice.
Like I can't help
it. It's him."
So what we did is, so I didn't do a lot of interviews because I just felt bad. I was driving my wife crazy, so I haven't done much. But my wife came up with the idea, and we've done it. I now have a glass wall across that. Yeah, it's nice. Like I think 3/4-inch glass panels, a door. So still get the light. I can still see in, see out. It still feels open. But it does have.
So now you're in a fishbowl.
So now I'm in a fishbowl. I do. I was like, now I'm at the local zoo or something.
Well, the old UFC headquarters had those as like their little meeting rooms. Right. It was like actually even their new ones still have them. New ones
still do for the.
So it just fits up against the wall.
Yeah, basically they installed a track on the top and a track on the bottom,
so you really
and you have this. Yeah, the guy did a great job, and it's really nice.
Wow.
But now I can do an interview, and it's not dead silent. You know what I mean? Like some volume travels through, but it's much suppressed to where it used to be. So now I'll be doing more phone interviews and stuff around the house. So
wow. I have to go check it out.
I say all that to set up this. I am no longer driving my wife crazy, which is good. Even not from interviews. No, not from that. Yeah,
just not from interviews.
Still driving her crazy. But it got to the point where even my son was like, "Dad, you're so loud." I'm like,
"That's hilarious."
Sorry. You know what I have noticed is that my son has my voice, except in a much higher octave because he's 8 years old.
Yeah.
But like I'm listening to him, and I looked over at my wife, and I was like, "He's not even yelling right now." I was like, "Oh my God, he's me!" So. Yeah, he's got a really loud voice.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Well, if there's a gene or a trait to pass on, I guess that's one of them.
That's a great one. All right, so listen, I wanted to follow up with Marvin Vettori after his fantastic work at UFC on ESPN 19. Great win over Jack Hermanson there, and of course, obviously, everybody knows I am a big Marvin Vettori fan. I just like the guy's attitude; he's fun, and so we had a chance to catch up earlier this week. So here's Marvin Vittori.
Hey, John.
Marvin, what's going on, brother?
It's good, man. All good.
Yeah, how you feeling, man? After that war, man, how's the body hanging?
No, man, I feel very good actually. I just feel like a little bit bruised up on the elbow and my face a little bit scratched up, but not too bad. Not too bad overall.
That's awesome. Well, listen, you've had a few days to let it all kind of soak in, man. Your first main event, a top-ranked guy, a fight of the night. Man, when you think back on it, what do you think about the whole experience?
It was crazy, man. It was really crazy, and like the biggest stress for me before this fight, from the moment they called me about taking this fight, was not being positive at this COVID bullshit, because the stress was so bad. 'Cause for some reason, people started falling all over around me, like, and catching it, and I would see somebody the day after, I was positive. I would warm up with somebody, and the day after, I was positive. And then everything that is out there about this thing is at least like is more than confusionary. So they're like, like after 2 days, most likely you're not gonna be positive. So test, most likely you're gonna think don't matter. After 5 days, most likely, yeah, it could be, but it could go up to almost 10 days until you get positive.
Right.
So the whole time I was tripping. So to be honest, it was a matter of obviously because obviously that you cannot do anything, but it's still hard to not worry.
Sure.
And I still had to put a lot of energy into focusing on the fight itself, because I'm still fighting the biggest fight of my life in a main event and all that comes with it. So man, it was really I felt like a torero with a bull, and the bull was the COVID, and I was the
torero. So was there? I mean, was there a part of you that was thinking this fight's not going to happen? I mean, was that kind of what was going through your head?
No, but it's one of those things, it all falls into place, and it almost feels beautiful, and you're man, you're ready for something to just ruin everything. And I was trying to be positive, and I was positive, and I was taking it day by day, but a little bit on the back of your mind is still there. And honestly, after the first UFC test, I felt much better, and I was like, man, there's no way that I'm gonna be positive the last day. But what's his name? The last main event the week before.
Blades.
Blade. Oh my God! There's still a little chance or whatever. But I felt pretty good after the first UFC test, but I was still a little bit worried. And but no, man, everything But this to say, I think it was destiny. I think it was meant to be. This fight was meant to happen, and it did.
That's awesome. Going into it, you said, hey, 5 rounds, no big deal, 5-3, whatever. I mean, that's the right attitude. That's the right way to approach it. But after you went through it, I mean, did those extra 2 rounds, I mean, was that a challenge? Did you find it to be more difficult than you thought it might be?
No, I actually enjoyed it, man. I loved it. I loved it because, like I said, it feels way more like a fight like this. And you're gonna be in there with this guy for a while, and there's not gonna be no way out. You cannot think about time that much. It's just we're gonna be in here for a while. I'll have my time to beat you up, and you'll have your time to try beat me up, if anything. And it's just good. It was good. I actually remember a moment on the 4th round where we were exchanging, and I'm like, man, I'm really loving this shit. I'm really enjoying this. I can be here forever if I have to. And yeah,
that's awesome, man. What so overall, man, no injuries. I mean, obviously we saw the cuts, which was crazy, man. I didn't know you got that cut up. It was like it was weird to see at the post-fight press conference. But is that really all you had to deal with?
Yeah, basically like a little bit of a bruise on my elbow, but that was really it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you like to get right back in the gym, but surely you're taking a little bit of time off.
Yeah, I am. I'm going back to Italy, and I'm staying in shape, but I'm gonna hit pads, maybe roll here and there, but um, I'm gonna take a few weeks off from sparring and things like this. But I'm gonna stay in shape, and it's gonna be good to just reset and refresh the mind for a moment. But yeah, man, I want to be back pretty soon. Like I mean, like ideally, like March or April would be already.
Yeah, be perfect. So you're are you going to stay in Italy through the holidays?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Are you Italy's most famous mixed martial artist now?
Oh, for sure. By far.
That's pretty awesome. I guess it was Alessio Sakara for a long time, right? Was that the guy for like when you were a kid growing up and stuff?
Yeah. He was definitely. Yeah, because then he like he was in many TV shows for a moment. He was presenting some stuff, and even now sometimes he's around the TV, so it's still kind of relevant here and there. So yeah, people knew him more for that in a sense, but yeah. But now, I think I passed it by far.
That's awesome, man. Well, so listen, so after the fight, you originally said, give me Bohashinia, and then you said, fuck Bohashinia, give me Adesanya. Well, have you talked to the company at all, or talked to Ali, or I mean, have you heard any direction on kind of what's happening?
Yeah, like it's just funny. Sometimes I look and I see what I say, and it's just funny because then they keep asking me about this question, and I'm like, and I it's pretty easy to recognize the way I am. Like basically every time they ask me, I'm always like, yeah, well, just anybody in the top five. It's perfect. I basically said every name of the top five, and then Cannonier was left out. And I'm like, man, Cannonier can get some love too if you want to. Not a big deal to me. They offer me Cannonier, I'm not going to shy away from that challenge either. So well, they just updated the ranking. They put Darren Till number 4, which is it makes absolute no sense. It's like 1-1 in the UFC, 1-1 in the middleweight division with a split decision win, and very inactive. And I don't know, like it's just 2 fights in the middleweight division, being 1-1, with that win being a split decision. It don't make no sense being number 4, but is ahead of me on the rankings, and if that comes to fruition as a fight, I would love that. I kind of picture myself into like the first Italian show, like the first UFC show in Italy, with me main eventing against Darren Till. That'd be epic. So that I don't know, maybe I'm just dreaming, but
I like the idea of it. I just don't know. I guess what the world's. It's funny. I hadn't seen the rankings, man. That is crazy. So you move up 8 spots, and then somehow he moves up 2 spots and gets ahead of you. That's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I should do a post where I want him to thank me for bringing him up 2 spots.
That's funny. So I think that'd be an entertaining fight, though, man. I mean, stylistically, that'd be a lot of fun. Is that the most appealing to you out of if we're? I mean, you said it. Those are the names, right? It's either Till, Cannonier, Bohashinia, or I guess Whitaker. But I'm assuming Whitaker's going to wait around.
Whitaker, man. Whitaker, I think would be the most legitimate test and legitimate fight to really determine the number 1 contender by far. But I don't know what's up with either him and Easy, man. Like I don't know what's up with either of them. I really don't know. Like Whitaker doesn't seem too motivated to fight. Well, in a sense, to fight in general, but to fight especially Israel. But he is the number 1 contender. And then the other funny things is that the other 4 people are all coming off losses, unless than me that was coming off 4 wins.
Right.
So they're all coming off losses, and it just just weird the situation on the top 5 at the moment. So like I like to fight Robert Whitaker, man. Like I think is a great test, and it really established like myself without any kind of doubt for like that could be for if Israel goes away, that could definitely be as an interim title, because that would without any doubt determine the number 1 contender spot.
Yeah.
And but it all depends on what Israel also wants to do, and like what the UFC is going to do. Israel is not going to decide no shit. He thinks he can decide something. He's not decided nothing. but so it all depends what the UFC wants to do, and then when they schedule a fight for Israel, then we'll see from there.
Yeah, at the press conference, you didn't seem to think he's going to 205. I know your manager's a pretty powerful guy. Do you have some inside information, or is that just kind of you just seeing how things look to you?
No, I don't know. I don't have no insights. I don't know. They all give for like, talking to the media, it all seems like Israel is for sure going up and fight for the 205 title, but I have not seen any official statement about it, and I don't know. So
yeah,
we'll see, man.
I think if he does, I think what's funny is I think he's talking about March or April as well. I think it'd be really cool if he did go up to fight for the 205 title, if they did you and Whitaker for an interim title, and then that means that either if he comes back to 185, obviously he's the next fight, or if he decides he's gone, then the interim champion just becomes the undisputed champion.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
I'll go talk to Dana and see if we can get it done for you. You don't need Ali, man. I got this for you.
No, yeah, exactly. we'll call you, John, when we'll go see Dana.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, listen, good to catch up with you. Just want to say congrats once again. What's the focus for the holidays? I mean, are you actually going to be able to stay, just spend some time with family, or do you think you're going to be, watching fights and staying online and keeping yourself ready? What do you think it'll be like?
Yeah, I don't know, because they put a bunch of regulation which I'm not looking forward to follow at all, to be honest with you. And it seems like they're closing down a lot of things, and there are curfews and like curfews for like New Year's Eve and things like that. So we'll see how we manage to do things, but I'm gonna go out, relax, like breathe some really fresh air. I want to go into the mountains for a moment and refresh everything, and go off social media for a few days at least. I'm not saying weeks, but maybe 1 or 2 days at least, and just refresh, and then start a year with a lot of energy and chasing that title for 2021. So that's the plan.
I love it. And when we finally do UFC Italy, where's the right place to do it? Is it Rome? Is it Milan? Is it somewhere else? What's the right place to do it?
Yeah, I think it might be Milan, but Rome is such an historical place that it might be like, the idea sounds beautiful, but maybe Milan. It's more of a, I don't know, business center in a sense,
right,
for things, and in a sense, it's a little bit more efficient on some kind of things, and I think Milan would be the spot, but. Yeah, man, and and also depends on how big they want to do things. But I'm thinking Milan, but we'll see, man. That'd be such a dream, man. That'd be such a dream come true if they can pull that off.
And it's got to be.
I know that was close one time, because man, like I talked to Lorenzo one time, and they told me that they were actually close to make that happen back in the days when with Alessio at one point. And then something went wrong, and he went on to losing bad with Brian Stan, I think, and then
right.
And so that didn't happen. So man, will be historical if it comes to fruition.
Yeah, and you got to be in the main event, right? No matter who it's against, you got to be headlining.
Oh yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, man, congrats again, dude. It was a phenomenal fight, man. Really enjoyed it, and we'll let you enjoy some time off and enjoy the holidays, and we'll catch up whenever you're back in the States.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
All right, that was the Italian Dream, Marvin Vettori. Obviously, a fantastic performance from him at UFC on ESPN 19. Man, never really realized what nobody really talks about it ahead of time, but how much stress COVID is probably. He probably isn't the only guy that has had feelings like that as well. So it's crazy to think that that's on their mind. But man, I just love the fact that he'll fight. I mean, literally anybody in that division. His thing of Cannonier can get some love too, man. I thought it just cracked me up, man. That's why I love that kid, man. He's so fun to talk to. I really do. I like the idea of him and Whitaker for an interim title as the co-main event of Adesanya versus Blachowicz. The timing seems to add up that they all want to fight in like March, right around that time. And I think it would make sense. It's an interim title, and if Adesanya comes back to defend his title, cool, then you unify the belts. And if Adesanya doesn't and says, I want to stay at 205 if he happens to win, then you just make the interim champion the undisputed champion. It seems to be like a kind of an easy little way to tie a little bow on it. So I really do like that idea of it happening. And I don't know, man. It just seems logical to me. And the last thing I wanted to point out was Marvin's a little bit more optimistic about the world getting back to normal when he's talking about doing a main event in Italy. I don't know how. I think it's going to be a while before we do that, but yeah. I do hope it happens. And I gotta think that Lorenzo Fertitta would show up to that one, right? I mean, he doesn't come around much anymore, but he always wanted to do a show in Italy, and yeah, I bet Lorenzo would come out of the woodwork for that one.
You up? You going to Italy?
Wow. Oh, man, now that he's out of the picture, you're just throwing the barbs at him, huh?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was a classic. That's an oldie but goodie.
That is.
If you don't know that one, look up Lorenzo Fertitta you up, and you'll get a kick out of it. By the way, we talked about this week being at UFC 256, and of course the holidays are upon us as well. It all comes together, and the holidays this year are sure to pack a punch. So this weekend's UFC 256. As some of the sport's most respected fighters step into the limelight this weekend, be sure to check out DraftKings, an official partner of the UFC. For this weekend's fight, DraftKings is offering all players a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. That's right, fantasy MMA. DraftKings is fun, man. What you do if you have it, it's super, super easy. If you're listening to an MMA podcast, I'm guessing you probably got some knowledge about the sport.
Maybe.
Even if you don't, I mean, hey, throw a couple bucks down, have a little fun, do what you got to do. What you do, you just pick 6 fighters, you stay under the salary cap, and you pile up points for advances, takedowns, and more. So you're basically looking for action fights. Try to find those action fighters that are going to be given lots of stats, basically. You get rewarded for the stats. So basically what you're doing, instead of just picking winners, you're trying to show your MMA knowledge. So if you want to put it to the test for a shot at millions of dollars, you can sign up at DraftKings. If MMA isn't for you, I'll say again, why the hell are you listening to this show? I mean, I think we're pretty good guys, but if you don't like MMA, I don't think I'd listen to the show.
They come for our alcohol talk and our insights on life and the current weather in Vegas.
I'd find us to be pretty enjoyable people, but I don't think I'd be listening if I didn't like MMA. But if you don't, DraftKings has got stuff. Every sport, they've got it covered. So they got everything that's going on. They got football season going on where DraftKings has even more money up for grabs every week of the season. I haven't been watching a lot of football. It hasn't been a great year for the Dallas Cowboys. But for fantasy MMA, I can sign off on that. Yeah, do feed me, Zeke. So what you got to do, download the DraftKings app right now and use promo code
Frosty.
That's right, Frosty, to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes throughout the weekends. That's promo code
Frosty
to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Can we tell you that we have the best code in the world that you guys cannot ever forget? Because I wonder, what is that Frosty all about? What could it possibly mean? Oh, wait, what is that in your hand, John?
It's a Frosty beverage.
Is that a Frosty beverage?
An award-winning Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Hashtag Frosty beverages.
Probably not exactly what our man Bruce Buffer assumed would be, on the back end of his Puncher's Chance Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I'm sure he goes a little more high class when he consumes his Puncher's Chance. But
I'm sure
keeps it real.
I'm sure he's some imported draft fancy beer.
I will be. He's bought me some very expensive shots of whiskey before, so he's a nice guy. Punch a chance, give it a shot. And DraftKings promo code
Frosty.
All right, Bellator 254 is tonight. A couple weeks ago I said, what I love about this Bellator on Thursday nights is we're going to get to kind of watch the shows and then talk about the shows and really give Bellator a little bit more love than we normally get to do. But guess what? I got work at 5 a.m. tomorrow.
Oof.
So we is not watching Bellator tonight. That's why we started in the afternoon.
Well, I'm going to watch it.
Well, you're going to watch it.
Never mind. That's right, because it's not on the channel that I have anymore.
Okay, so that's interesting, by the way. Yeah,
frustrating.
No longer, it seems, on DAZN. Basically, they were pulled from the schedule today. Had heard some. I think we kind of all knew they were moving in this direction. That it was coming at some point. Yeah, we knew this was happening.
It was like on the slide. It was like, oh, hey, go to the CBS Sports Network, but by the way, you can still watch it.
Right.
On DAZN.
It was so weird. They made a big deal about the CBS Sports thing, and then so it was clear that it was going. It seems like next year Bellator will probably have maybe some shows on network television, maybe Showtime. There's options for them there, and I think everybody at Bellator is looking forward to it. But it was weird to just all of a sudden just be off DAZN with no notice given. You and I both had just re-upped on DAZN.
I know. What am I going to use it for now? I mean, like every once in a while, I'll watch a boxing thing on there, but
it's normally on it's normally on Saturdays, and we're working.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, unless it's just a play along the lines of when ESPN's like, oh, you want to watch this stuff? Get the ESPN app. Now it's like if you want to watch it, you have to get CBS Sports Network. Unfortunately for me, it's not part of. I cut the cable a while back,
right.
So for me to get it, I have to get a whole other streaming service just to get it, and it's like
it's not even
never
available
like
on a different tier.
It's not even on like Sling, so I'd have to get like T-Mobile TV or Apple TV or whatever one of the other ones, and then have it be a part of it,
which used to be DirecTV.
So frustrating.
So we'll see where they're at. I know that they feel happy about the direction they're moving in, but tonight the prelims don't start that late, 8 p.m. Eastern, but the main card starting at 10 p.m. Eastern on a weeknight. That's not that bad for us out here on the West Coast.
Yeah,
7
we got
o'clock.
it all right.
But I was not going to wait till after the show was over and then do the podcast because I got to get a little bit of sleep before the weigh-ins tomorrow. But I will say this: it'll already be in the books by the time anyone listens to this. I am looking forward to watching the main event: Elimina McFarland versus Juliana Velasquez, two undefeated fighters, and Juliana is the real deal. In fact, she's actually the favorite according to the odds makers. So the challenger is the favorite. And I remember thinking, I was like, ooh, when they announced this fight, I said, ooh, that's going to be competitive, man. Juliana might give Elimina some problems, but I didn't think the odds makers were going to give that much respect to her as well. So she's actually the favorite. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out tonight. You also have the Bellator debut of Magomed Magomedov. Magomed Magomedov is most famous, I think, to most people, I would think, as the man to hand Peter Yan his only defeat to date in his career. And I had totally forgotten about this, and when I saw Magomedov's name on the card for tonight, I remember a conversation I had with somebody out in Fight Island. And I won't reveal who it is because they're not associated with Peter Yan or Magomed Magomedov. They were just sharing the story with me, so I don't know if they wanted to know that they were out there sharing this. But it's interesting. If you go back to that, the victory by Magomed Magomedov under the ACB banner.
57.
That's right, back in 2016, I believe it was. It was a split decision, but it's interesting because the original scores on the sheet, on the judges' sheets, and there's a link to this where you can see them. You can actually see the original sheets. Read 47-47 twice and a 49-47 in favor of Yan for a majority draw. However, there was a point deduction on Yan for repeated headbutts that took place right before the final bell, and the final scores were 47-46 twice in favor of Magomedov, giving him the split decision win. The interesting thing about it is the judges had already deducted a point, and then the scorekeeper deducted another point. So it should have been a draw. Technically, Peter Yan should still be undefeated right now. That one loss he has should be a draw.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sorry, I was looking at the thing. He actually rematched him.
He did.
It was Absolute Championship Burkitt 32, Not ACB 57 payback as I first. He actually got his payback.
That's right. He did get it in the rematch. He handled it in the rematch. But it's interesting. Jan should be undefeated. I want to talk to him about this. I had heard about this. I had this story relayed to me. It's just been so busy since. And I had intended the next time I saw Jan to ask him about that and to follow up to see if he ever wants to try to like go back and revisit it. You know, at one time they talked about trying to get John Jones's record undefeated again to get rid of that Matt Hamill disqualification. This would seem much easier. That I knew was never going to happen because they were never going to overturn Mazzagati's decision. But this, I would think, because you can actually see photos of the scorecard, and it's like, wait, if they already deducted the point and we see the totals right here, it should be a draw. And I'm not trying to hate on Magomedov. It's not his fault, but Peter Yan should be undefeated.
Yeah, when it's something like that, when it's literally just clerical error,
you think you could fix that?
You think that would already been fixed by now, and
right?
This was 2017.
I know, right? I want to talk to him about that. And I wonder if because Danny Rubenstein is his manager, but I don't know if he was managing him back then. Because I know Danny Rubenstein would have followed up to get that fixed. So I bet he wasn't managing him back then. But I wonder if he's.
Could.
I was going to say. I wonder if he. I don't know if because I didn't know that story, to be honest. I didn't know that story until just a few months ago. So
it's not like there's like a statute of limitations.
I don't think so. I think if you got the pictures,
if they messed up, they messed up. They messed up. You know.
Anyway, I want to follow up on that. See if you want to fix that.
Don't they file those things away? Don't they keep them, or do they just pitch them?
The scorecards? I think they probably keep like photos of them, but I don't think they keep the originals. I mean, this is over in Mother Russia, so I don't. They might have.
So what are you saying?
I don't know. I feel like I was being. I like Russia, but I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty, Cold War. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of been hating on the Russians a little bit, you know, because I've been trying to invade their territory.
So you're actually playing You're not just playing the zombie side like our man Abby likes to play.
Is that all he plays?
I think all he plays is the zombie.
No,
side.
I played a little bit of story mode last night. I was playing for a little while. I will say this. PS5, baby. I got that PS5,
because me and Abs are both Xbox, so we talked about getting together and playing it, but you can't. You can't cross
port over or whatever. I'll tell you what's funny though. So I haven't played the zombie mode on it. I've played a little bit of the story mode. My wife saw a little bit of the story mode and she was like, "Do not let Eli see this," because it is pretty vicious. But Eli and I did play a little bit of just like it's not zombie mode. What is it? It's not the story, but it's
just player versus player.
I guess where it's kind of like where they just you're on a map. I don't know what that mode is called. You know what I mean? He actually he set it up as literally. I think he just set it up as 1 versus 1. So it was literally just me versus him, me versus my 8-year-old, and he shot me like 10 times, dude. Like I shot him once, and he shot me.
He was spawn hunting
10 times, dude. I was like, this is
found your spawn spot.
So frustrating, dude. Just kept shooting me. I'm like trying to figure out where I am on the map and. Dead.
Maybe you should play the zombies where they don't shoot back.
No, you just shoot a bunch of zombies.
Shoot them, they just come up and munch on you or something. But it gets gradually harder. If it's like any of the other games that as the waves go, it gets harder and harder and harder. But yeah, I think that's all Abby does is plays the zombie ones.
She plays Call of Duty Zombies, huh?
Yeah, because
I haven't played that yet.
What's the same thing when I used to play Fortnite, like playing against the actual human beings. I really sucked, but I was decent when I played against just the game zombies, the game things. So yeah.
If you play those online, do you have to have like chat? Like, do you have to be able to hear people, or can you turn it off?
No, you might. You won't hear them a lot of times. If you're on a team, you might hear them. But a lot of times, it's just you'll see a line of chat.
That's what I'm worried about with my kid, like going online and having. You know what I mean?
And again, I haven't fired up the new one.
And now that I know my kid is far more technically savvy than I am. I was in my kitchen yesterday, and he called me on my Alexa Dot or whatever. I don't even know if that's what it's called. He was somewhere else and called me and was watching me on the ADT security cameras. My 8-year-old.
He's like, well, he probably did at mom's request.
Like, see if your dad's drinking.
See if.
All right, listen. I said I've been doing interviews. Here's another interview I did. I had a chance to speak with Demetrious Johnson. He is taking on, of course, Adriano Moraes in February for the one flyweight title. Of course, he won the Grand Prix, but he doesn't have the actual championship belt, so he's looking to add another title to his closet. He actually just has all of his belts in his closet. I was watching an IG Live with him and Dave Manley from MMA Bobblehead because they just launched a Demetrious Johnson bobblehead, which looks awesome, by the way. And Dave was asking him where his belts are, and he's like, they're just in my closet. So anyway, he's looking to add another belt to his closet. But just so you understand the way this, because it starts a little weird as we were talking. I called Demetrious, and he picks up on like the first ring, but doesn't say anything. And all I hear is like just like running water, and it was just I'm like, what's going on right now? Like what?
You know what that is? If it's something like how I do it, when I sometimes get random calls, I would think he would have your number saved by now. But when I get random calls, I'm not sure if it's a auto-generated like telemarketer or whatever. If you don't make a noise, the system disconnects it after a while. But a lot of times, if you say hello, it kicks the system in, and the call continues or it transfers it. He was checking to make sure probably if you're a
complicated lifestyle.
What, you never get telemarketer calls?
I just don't answer it.
You don't answer your phone?
If I don't recognize the number, no.
Yeah, I guess.
Or mine says like scam likely most of the time.
Well, sometimes mine will do that, but I always know.
Switch over to Apple, superior technology. You wouldn't have to go through these complicated.
I'll see one.
You're doing like CIA level tests of how to.
Well, that's how bad that they've gotten the telemarketers. Is like they'll know what your area code is, and then they find it. It'll mask their number,
make it look
so
local.
it'll look like a 614 number.
Well, see, that's how I know not to answer. Like if I see, like, because my area code is still a Dallas area code. I've had the same phone number for 22 years now.
Yeah.
And if I see like a local number that I don't know and it's a Dallas number, I'm like, I don't know anybody in Dallas anymore other than my parents. You know what I mean? So I just don't answer.
I'm a lonely guy, John. I like the interactions, the calls.
All right. Well, I don't think Demetrious Johnson was doing the CIA level call screening that you were doing. But so there's water running, and finally, like I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, well, maybe he's doing something. He's about to say something. And finally, like after 30, 40 seconds, I was like, DJ, and he's like, oh. So I guess he just like butt answered it or something or an accident. But anyway, he was busy. He's like, do you mind if I call you right back? And he's like, I'm busy right now.
He's dropping a deuce in the bathroom.
No, he wasn't doing that. He says what he was doing, but I'll tell you. So anyway, this conversation started out a little weird.
I don't believe him.
That's why. So he called me back, and here's what he had to say.
Yo, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Good. Sorry about that. Got home and dog smelled like shit. The wife said, so I was trying to wash her real quick. So
all good, man. You got to do the family thing, man. You know, you got to pitch in around the house.
That's right.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, cool. So this workout still a good time for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, I feel like the place we have to start is the thing that matters the most. Is that sweet ass bobblehead, man? That thing is awesome, dude. That is. I think that's the best one in the collection so far. What'd you think about that?
It is damn good. I mean, he did a great job with the detail, the shadowing, all of the stuff looks perfect. So I'm very satisfied with how the way it came out.
I dig it, man. I actually collect all those, man. I think that product is awesome, and I think yours might be the best one, man. It's the pose is there. It's pretty slick.
He outdid himself. I didn't know he did a lot. Then when I looked at all the other ones, like DC's, Brian Ortega, and all that stuff, I'm like, huh. And I was just blown away how well in fight detail he did. So it's awesome.
No doubt, man. Well, let's talk about this year, DJ. I mean, obviously 2020 has been a pretty crazy year for everybody, but you've been forced to the sidelines, of course. So give me an idea, man. How did this year go? I mean, was training still a big part of your life? I mean, were you hoping for a fight, or did you just realize early it wasn't going to happen? I mean, what's it been like for you?
Well, obviously, once COVID hit back in January, I was still hopeful that I was going to be able to fight. And the fight got moved from China to Jakarta. And then, obviously, just got, postponed altogether with the whole pandemic. And then, Washington State, we shut down for, I think it was like 8 or 9 weeks. So there was no gyms that are open and training. And, the Epidemic Center in Washington State was literally right down the street from AMC. So we took it very seriously.
Wow.
And then after that, we are now just starting to we were at that point started to get things going and training again after the summer. During the summer, and next thing you know, we get shut down again. We're currently under quarantine, and I just read a note. It got postponed to January 4th or 14th. So, yeah, we're just surviving, and life is basically me doing homeschool with the kids, working out when I can, and yeah, just enjoying life as best you can, right?
I was going to say it's a challenge for everybody, but I don't know. I mean, we think about you as this, champion and pound-for-pound great fighter, but I imagine you. I mean, obviously you'd like the world to be safe, but just being home with your family, probably not the worst thing for you?
No, it's not. This is time I'm going to get back. My kids are 7, 5, and 2, and, teaching them, and I was telling my wife that actually kind of cool to see my middle child learn how to read because we've been doing school with them. And so teaching him the letters, the sound they make, and then him say, ah, gnats. And I'm like, yes, you're reading. And then, he started picking stuff. And like, just to see that, I'm sure there's a lot of families out there who don't get the opportunity, or there are families out there who do homeschool and they get to see that. So for me, I was like, that's pretty cool. That's stuff that I'm not going to be able to get back, or be able to see because I usually be at the gym training.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. At least you can make the best out of a bad situation. So, talk to me, man. I mean, I heard the other day when you were doing the IG live, that your belt is just kind of in a closet or whatever. But it's funny. I remember you saying, like, I'm going to go collect these titles from around the world, and I remember thinking, well, that's never going to happen. You're going to be in the UFC, and then sure enough, you did it. So, I mean, knowing that was a goal, I know it's in the closet, but does that one have a special meaning to you?
Oh yeah, the World Grand Prix belt has always been one. That's probably my most special one. I mean, obviously my UFC belts are my special one, especially since I had the one I won back in 2012, then the tiebreaker, and then the one where I tied Anderson Silva's record. So I have 3 UFC belts, and then I have one World Championship, the Grand Prix. So me growing up, I've always been watching Grand Prix, with Crow Cop, Vanderlei, Shogun, Josh Burnett. And I just love how fat those belts were. Yeah. And to be able to have a World Grand Prix and be able to compete in one, and it was a busy year. It was 3 fights in 1 year, and it was almost like a gauntlet. So, that was probably my favorite. It is my favorite one.
That's awesome. What do you think about your time with ONE FC so far? I mean, like it's obviously it's a different culture, it's a different way of doing business. Was it difficult for you to adjust? I mean, I'm sure you had UFC Fight Week down pat, man. You knew exactly what to expect. Was it a difficult adjustment or one that you've enjoyed?
I don't want to say I'm still adjusting, but yeah, it's definitely a whole new ball game. With the traveling, time zone, all that stuff. But I feel like I'm adapting pretty well. The fans are amazing, and yeah, I can't complain. When I was fighting, UFC, my favorite spot to fight was Vegas, just because there's no taxes and an easy ass flight.
That's awesome, man. So, tell about the weight cut system, man. I mean, some people are saying that that's like the way to go. That'll fix it for the rest of the sport. Are you sold on it, man? Do you think that they've hit on something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do believe it. I mean, I fight at 135, which is kind of like 3 pounds away from my walking weight. So that's kind of like essentially my walking weight. I'm fully hydrated when I weigh in. You do get some guys who cut a lot of weight and then they find a way to hydrate and whatever. They're just not as disciplined, or just let their bodies go out of camp. But for me, I love it. It's great. And, I tell you what, I do not miss cutting 125.
I bet. Well, no, you got the, hunting another belt now. You got the Mariah's fight set. We finally got it scheduled. Give me the scouting report, man. What do you think about this guy? I mean, you've obviously competed against the very best in the world your whole career. So where does this guy stack up?
Yeah, he definitely stacks up there. I think everybody I've ever fought against always brings something totally different to the table. Obviously, Adriano, he's tall. He's a great grappler. So those are the biggest things that I see that he has going for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Great champion. He went back and forth with Jay Eustaquio. And it's going to be a great fight, great matchup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You win this belt. I mean, obviously you'll have these 2 new titles, which is awesome. I mean, where do you go from there? I mean, what are the goals? I mean, you have literally done everything in the sport. Your name is mentioned as, among the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. So what are your goals? Are there things you still want to tick off, like boxes that you need to check before you say you're done?
No, honestly, just keep on fighting. Keep on fighting. This is how I make my living. And, utilize my youth as, opportunity to stack up as much money as possible. That way, when I'm ready to walk away from the sport, then I can do whatever I want. So that's the main focus. And take care of my family. I tell everybody all the time, there comes a point in time in a gentleman's career or a man's career or even a woman's career that they have to think about their children, right? And so I'm trying to set myself up when I'm done. It's like, okay, I'm done. I've done a lot of great things in my career, and I'm happy with what I've accomplished.
Yeah. How long do you think you will fight? I mean, have you put a number on it? And how long do you want to compete? How long it'll take for you to stack that paper that you need for the family?
Well, it all depends on like my body. Like, let's say I was like, I'm done. I'm not having fun anymore with training, injuries. I'm getting knocked the hell out. Just things just start going bad. Then I'll just call it quit and find other ways to make money. But at the end of the day, I'll just fight until I'm happy, until I'm not happy anymore. I might be past that number now, or I might just need a little bit more. But for me, it's just about my body. Like when I'm ready to be done, then I'm just gonna say I'm done.
Yeah. Has being with one brought back some passion? I mean, I don't say you were burned out with the sport, but I know you hated, the interviews and the way things were marketed, and it has to be a rivalry, right? And there has to be bad blood. I mean, I think you were pretty sick of all that. Has not having to take part in that, has it brought back passion for the sport for you?
I would say it's a breath of fresh air. I've always had passion for training and learning in mixed martial arts, and I've always had passion for competing, but it is a breath of fresh air when you got to worry about this X, Y, and Z. And I told them the other day, they're like, hey, we want to try to get you guys on a face-to-face interview. And I was like, why? I'm just going to say the same shit I'll say to you, even if he wasn't here. So what do you want? I mean, yeah, it's all great and perfect when it comes to that, but that's not the type of person I am. So yeah, it is a breath of fresh air. And I know there's two sides of the business, the showman's part where you got to, do all this showman stuff like WWE, WWF, but I've never been that person, and I've been in my career since 2011. That's fucking 9 years. There's no point for me to start doing it now. You either love to watch me fight or you hate watching me fight.
Did anybody ever talk to you and be like, hey DJ, you're leaving money on the table, man. You need to step your game up here so you can, make a little bit more money. Did anybody ever try to have that talk with you?
I mentioned I talked to it's always funny because Michael Bisping, Mike, just go and talk a little shit. It won't hurt anybody. You do a little something. I was like, but Mike, what if you get your ass beat? He goes, who cares? People are gonna love it, mate. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Is that just because you want to be able to respect yourself, or is it a message you're sending for your kids or an example for other people? Why did you never want to take part in all that?
Yeah, I think you hit on nails. Example for my kids, example to be a good role model, right? If I start, acting the way that I usually don't act, then I'm basically putting on the front. So for me, my kids ask me, my kids learn from me. So when they were to see me, acting a fool on TV, making all these stupid ass decisions, they're gonna learn it, and I'm gonna have to answer those questions. I'd rather just be the person I am, and then they ask me, how come, when they ask me like that, how come you never, talk, a lot of junk when you're fighting? I was like, it's because I didn't care to. I was so focused on training or being, just being who I am, being very transparent. And they're going to like it or like that. You miss out on a lot of fucking money. I'm like, oh, well, you go make the money then.
That's awesome. So what do you think? I mean, would you ever consider coming back to the UFC for one fight, swooping it? I think of a guy like GSP. He's out for 4 years and then they bring him back in for a title fight. I mean, would you ever consider coming back for a one night only type deal if, maybe this Davison Figueiredo character reigns for a long time, or, I don't know. Is there anything that would interest you to come back to the UFC for one night?
Not as of right now. I'm just focused on, just not surviving, but just staying healthy, having a healthy training camp. I'm never that type of person where it's like, oh man, I just need to get one itch in. I've never been that type of person. I've always been a person who lives day by day and never really. Only thing I look forward to in the future is when I hang them up, I'm going to be done and I'll be happy with my career.
Has this year at home made you look more forward to retirement or more forward to getting back in the cage and doing what you love?
More, it's almost gave me a glimpse of how retirement could look if I played my chips right,
Yeah.
I love being home with my wife, my kids, seeing them grow. I mean, you get one life, and I don't want to waste it, being gone all the time. Which it's part of my job. But when I have a taste of this, and I'm okay. I hear a lot of athletes say that they miss the big lights. They miss competing in the cage or the ring. And so when I hear people say that, as I was growing up in my mixed martial arts career, I was like, okay, this at one point in time, this is going to come to end. I'm not going to be, this high level pro athlete that everybody's always going to see me at 5 or 6 years. That's not going to be me anymore. And I guess being through COVID, sitting out my wife and kids, it's kind of making me come to terms with it. I think it was, Diego Sanchez. He said that he was always afraid to retire. He was afraid. And I think he's about to have did he already have his last fight, or he's about to have his last fight?
Yeah, I think he's going to do probably one more.
Yeah, he's doing one more, and he goes, "I'm not afraid anymore." He goes, "I'm ready. I'm ready for this time to be done." So those words that he said really, really touched me to where it's like there's an athlete who's been in the game for a very, very long time, and he's like, you know what? I'm not afraid anymore. And I think that's a lot of things that's the thing that keeps people in the mixed martial arts or combat world, is that they're afraid to find something else to do or to keep their mind going. So, yeah, that's what I think Kobe's did for me, to be able to spend time with the wife and kids and see, hey, this could be your retirement where you're just chilling with your wife and kids all the time.
That's awesome, man. Well, you deserve it, but hopefully it doesn't come too soon. We want to see you still competing, man. You still got some big accomplishments ahead.
Oh yeah, I still got some miles on this this nice little Ferrari, So I'm not. And that's the thing. People like, a lot of people say, "Oh, once you start thinking about retirement, you might as well retire." I was like, no, you should always think about retirement. How are you going to set yourself up? How are you going to, be able to cope with once you hang them up, right? Because if it's the athletes, you're like, they never think about it. Then when they retire, like, shit, I didn't save my money, or I didn't think what I was going to do. I mean, even NFL players, when they sign that first fucking contract, they're like, so the smart ones are like, okay, I'm going to start investing this money. I'm going to start putting money here. Yes. I want to open a restaurant. Those guys, you look at Cam Chancellor, you look at, Doug Baldwin, all these guys who are already retired, they thought about retirement, and they're doing okay with them for themselves.
No question. That's a great way to put it, man. That's well said. Well said. Well, listen, the next one is this title fight, man. We're all excited about it. What kind of fight you think we're going to see here, man? I mean, you mentioned the tools that he brings to the table. I mean, are you expecting to be in a battle, or is this a fight that you think you can show the dominant guy that you are?
No, it's always going to be battle. I always celebrate it's going to be battle. I think that's the best mindset to have. I'm going to go in there. I've always had trouble with bigger opponents, taller guys. You look at Dominic Cruz, Tim Elliott, guys who are like, 5'7", 5'9". It's just more mass to deal with. Longer arms, longer fucking legs. It's just more of a mass to deal with. It's totally different when you're fighting somebody who's 5'3", 5'4", when you're the same height. So I'm going to go out there. It's going to be a great battle. It's going to be very technical. I got to go in there. I got to be sharp. I got to be. I can't overextend. I can't give my back. So I got to go out there and be focused. Be laser focused.
Well said, man. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate the time as always. I'll let you get back to your family, and I'm sure we'll talk again as the fight gets a little closer.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right, there he was, Mighty Mouse. Always good to catch up with that guy. By the way, had to get the MMA bobblehead reference in there. Dave is such a good dude, man, and I really do like the DJ one. If you haven't seen it, we put a picture of it up on MMA Junkie, or you can go to MMA Bobblehead, obviously, and check it out there. It looks really, really good, and it's cool because the UFC won't work with them. Obviously, they're really stingy on their licensing and that sort of thing.
Yep.
One Championship was happy to work with Dave, and so there's the One Championship logo is on the box. His belt is on the box art, because the box art has really become like really cool with these things as they developed over time. So anyway, just always like catching up with Demetrious, because I mean, you think about what a high level fighter is, but he's always just such a down-to-earth guy. You know what I mean? Like, he really is just a family dude that just loves being around his kids and his wife. And I love it when he's casual like that, because he's just dropping F-bombs. Because that's how he is behind the scenes. When we were interviewing with the UFC, it was always funny like that.
Towards the very, very end, he started to open up a little bit, like where he was like, I don't need to play this game.
He would always
anymore.
be like that behind the scenes, and then you turn the camera on, and he's very just like buttoned up pro, like not being as casual. And I love that side of him, because he's like a dude you can hang out with, And it is funny. Like, I'll never forget that interview that we did, I believe, in Los Angeles, where he was talking about his vision of like going around the world and picking up belts from other organizations. And I remember just looking at him and literally saying out loud, I'm like, yeah, but that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? Because he's with the UFC. And I was like, how's he ever going to leave the UFC? And now he's doing it. So it always makes me laugh at myself a little bit. And by the way, last note on Demetrious Johnson, the only man who has a worse Michael Bisping than yours is Demetrious Johnson. That was piss poor. All right, UFC 256 is this weekend.
Challenge accepted.
You and I are both working this, and of course you'll be in the media tent. I'll be inside the Apex and then join you at the end of the night. Listen, I like this card a lot, man. The main event, I understand, flyweights, blah, blah, blah. I mean, come on, man. Don't give me that argument. Davison Figueiredo is an absolute monster, man. I have loved this guy since he first came into the UFC. vicious power, got fights with a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? He's coming in trying to kill you. I've said it before. I love that nickname. God of War. I mean, that's what he's coming to do. I don't care. If he is 125 pounds, like that dude is straight scary when he fights.
Tiny God of War.
Tiny little God of War, man. And he's fighting Brandon Moreno, who, of course, Brandon, how do you not love Brandon, man? Just a ball of energy, always super fun, super polite. I like Figueiredo in this matchup. I'd love nothing more than to see Moreno win just for him. I mean, a guy that was out of the UFC and then has now battled his way back in, and now he's fighting for the title. And, there'd be history there. Obviously, first Mexican-born, champion. Obviously, Cain Velasquez was born in the States. Raised and I mean, man, it'd be a big moment for him to kind of wear that flag on his back. Man, I just think Devison's going to be too much for him. But, the quick turnaround for both of them is exciting. And, Devison Figueiredo, a win here, you could probably call him Fighter of the Year, man. So it's a big one, especially now that, Khamzat won't even be in the running. Of course, even if Khamzat had beaten Leon Edwards, let's say, next week, I think you'd still have to look at Devison, right? Because, Khamzat made a splash, but Devison, you're talking about championship level, right? And title wins, that would definitely
title defenses that always carries a lot more than just
picked up some wins.
The latest, favorite guy of Dana's or whatever.
Yeah, I think if you were to be at a non-championship level and be fighter of the year, I think you'd have to do something crazy like go like 7-0 or something. You know what I mean? Like something just absurd like we've never even seen before. Otherwise, I think you got to look towards champions who rack up, who win the belt and rack up a couple defenses. So that's a big fight, and I understand, flyweights get criticized, but I'm excited about this fight. Again, I get it. I'm not paying the $65. I'm working, but overall, I think this card is pretty entertaining. Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira, just to me, I mean, you don't have to be much of a genius to figure out that this looks like on paper it should be an absolute war. I mean, these dudes are bonus machines, man. I mean, the two of them finish fights. They're scrappy. Oliveira, I feel like, has finally kind of developed the mental toughness, I think, to go along with the physical skills that he always had. I felt like before he was kind of a front runner. You know what I mean? If you got tested, if you got pushed, he kind of wilted in the face of that. And I don't think he does that anymore. And now we're talking about Tony Ferguson and how does he respond. I don't think you have to question Tony Ferguson's mental toughness or his readiness. But hey, is there any lasting implications from that that devastating knockout that he suffered? I mean, I know he wasn't put out back in May, but he certainly took some damage and he was out on his feet. And is there any lasting damage from that? Big moment for both of these guys. Tony yesterday in the media day, virtual media day, basically saying like, I don't care about where I am in the rankings anymore. I'm not, and I think there's probably something healthy with that. Just saying I'm not. Yeah. You know what I mean? I had to go on this goose chase for so long, and I had the interim belt, and they took it away from me, and then they made me fight for the interim title again, and I think there's probably something healthy in him saying, don't give a shit. I just know that I come to brawl. I put on a show for the fans, and that's what I'm going to do. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira is saying, look, I've battled for a long way to get here, and now I'm here. I was on the outside looking in. I've been in the UFC for 10 years, and nobody ever looked at me as elite. They looked at me as perhaps dangerous, but they didn't look at me as elite. And now here's my chance to crack into the the elite class of the lightweight division. This is a big fight. I mean, Jesus. Could easily be a main event on a fight night.
Yeah, to think that he's been in legit 10 years. And
10 years.
The guy's 31, so he's been doing it since he was a baby.
When he came in. Dude, he was a baby when he came in. I'll never forget. I mean, I've said it before, but I mean, when he came in the UFC, he was like 5'10". He grew like 4 inches like while he was in the UFC. He was so young.
All of his stats were wrong. They had the wrong height for him.
5'10". You're like, bro,
like,
that dude is 6'2". Easy, man. What are you talking about?
Something's not right.
That's a big fight. It looks like they shuffled up the listing a little bit. It looks like from what we saw, a social media post earlier today, it looks like Mackenzie Dern versus Verna Jandiroba is on the main card. I got no problem with that. Obviously, Mackenzie, has been a marketing sensation for a long time. We all understand why. But
why? Oh, because the family heritage.
Exactly, the jiu-jitsu skills, right? Yeah, you think about second-generation Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Totally.
People forget about that.
People latch on to that, man. That gets clicks, man.
Yeah.
People click on that.
But, I mean, Verna's a beast.
That's what I'm saying. This fight is a great fight, man.
Verna is legit contender type status. This is the kind of thing that, one, it would legitimize Mackenzie. If she can get a decent, good victory, will legitimize all this hype that's behind her.
Yep.
And if Verna gets the win, it will prove to people what everybody else sort of on the backside of knowing is that she is an absolute monster that is very well could be a future champ.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing against her is, 32. I mean, she's been a champ in other organizations. She needs to be hitting on all strides right now, and right now she is.
I love this fight. I think it's a phenomenal fight. Mackenzie has been working with Jason Perillo. She talked about that today at the media day. She said, "Listen, my striking skills have come a long, long way, and I think that's going to be the difference." And she said, "Look, I mean, I know that Verna has dangerous grappling." She's like, "But I feel like my grappling is more complete." Obviously Mackenzie grew up on the mats. She's the son of an absolute Brazilian jiu-jitsu legend. So certainly she's, her jiu-jitsu
she's amazing.
Speaks for itself.
It's really good.
But Verna is really, really good, and she's got she heavy top game, heavy pressure. Kind of your standard stuff. Like your kind of old school, just basic. Lock in position, advance, submission. Not the crazy stuff. But yeah, stylistically, I love the fight, and you're right, it's meaningful for both fighters in a lot of ways. It's gonna give one of them a lot of legitimacy in the division.
Yeah, one of them, whoever gets the win, is gonna get a big boost nearing that contender status. It'd be hard to deny either one of them with a good win here.
Yeah, no question about it. Kevin Holland versus Ronaldo Jacare Souza.
How can you not like that fight?
Love that fight too, man. Kevin Holland, man, the guy just fights every other weekend if he can. You know what I mean? And obviously we had some shuffling and jiggling things around. But honestly, I like this fight more. I talked about it last week that I really, really liked Vettori versus Hermanson more, and I like the Holland versus Jacare matchup. I think this is a good one. And man, the main card kicks off with JDS versus Cyril Gane. That's a big one too. Kind of a crossroads moment for JDS.
That's it.
He needs a win, man. Certainly a legend. And it should be said, by the way, Jacare and Kevin Holland as well. I think maybe a little bit less so, just because Jacare doesn't have the benefit of being a former UFC champion. He was a Strikeforce champ, but anytime you're a former UFC champ like JDS, it carries a little bit more weight to it. But those are two guys that are on the kind of backside of their career, and you got these, young and hungry cats that are trying to come up and say, Gane. I ended up going with all favorites on here, okay, on my staff pick. So I ended up going with Gane against JDS. He is the favorite there, and understandably so, a pretty sizable favorite. I will be honest with you, JDS as a plus 340 underdog was a little bit. And this may be silly, man, but it was a little bit enticing to me. I almost went that direction because, man, that's a huge experience gap. I mean, Cyril is dangerous. He's powerful. JDS doesn't have the chin he once did, that's for sure. And Cyril's got some great grappling as well. But, man, JDS has just been around for so long, and this is so early in Cyril's career. It seems like everybody has that one kind of slip-up moment or that one kind of just they reach a different class and they go, oh, okay, wait a minute, yeah, I gotta fine tune these things a little bit, and I don't know. That line is a little bit enticing. I'm not saying go out and bet your mortgage payment or anything like that, but JDS at plus 340, I don't know. It speaks to me a little. And we're not even putting money on it. We're just picking.
Yeah.
I didn't pull the trigger on it. I stayed with Gane, but it did stick out to me as like, man, that seems a little crazy.
It does, but man, Cyril's got such power, and it's I would hate to see JDS go out there and take one of these ones on this chin, because we've seen that his chin has gone away a little bit over the years, and he's gone in there and he's connected with a lot of these guys, but he hasn't actually devastated them like he used to do.
Right.
So I wonder if some of that power has sort of drifted away a little bit, and this is the kind of cat, where it's a couple punches. It's like when you get Francis in there, a couple good solid hits, and it's lights out on this one. I actually went with Cyril as well on this one, but man, I love JDS, but I would hate to see him, take a quick shot and go out. And if it did happen, I would think that would probably be time to probably consider picking easier fights or deciding that maybe it's time to go. But it does, especially with the last 2 fights that you're talking about. It is kind of like these. We often call them the gatekeeper matches. Where guys get through these former champs or these guys that have always been sort of the gold standard of a division, and that's kind of what this is. JDS has always sort of been a gold standard of that division, not a guy that people want to ask for by name, but when people are able to get a victory over it, I mean, that there's no better stamp for you being at a place that you are and being deserving. If you can get a win over JDS, you deserve to be in the top 10, the top 5.
Completely agree, man. That main card to me, like I said, it's I'm not the one being asked to fork out $65 or whatever it is these days. So I get it. Some people may say I don't know, but to me this card looks good, man. Those are all meaningful fights there. I like the main card, and then you look at the prelims. And the prelims, you may not have as much meaning necessarily, but I think you're going to have a lot of fun, man. Pineda versus Cub Swanson, obviously, definitely excited for that one. To see where Cub is at this point in his career. He's at I don't want to say a must-win situation, but you know what I mean. He's on the backside of it, and he doesn't mind admitting that. And looking to see how he looks against Daniel Pineda, who's had some ups and downs in his career, but can certainly be dangerous on any given night. So that's an intriguing fight. Billy Quarantillo versus Gavin Tucker should be absolute fireworks. Rafael Fiziev versus Renato Moicano should be absolute fireworks. That should be nasty. You got the newcomer Sam Page Hughes stepping in there against the veteran Tisha Torres. And, of course, things kick off with Peter Barrett versus Chase Hooper. And Chase Hooper's always a fun watch, man. He'll take some shots, but then he'll wow you with some submission stuff. So, and then
I thought that was Chase Askren.
Peter Barrett's an interesting character as well. So listen, man, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun, man. Knock on wood, we don't have any last-minute cancellations. We've already had one fight scratched this week because of COVID-19. Let's hope we don't get more.
What we have? Was it 3 last week?
3. Only 2 were COVID related. One was pink eye.
Still 3 fight night. That was
crazy. We ended up with 8 fights, which was crazy. And I still, I talked about it a little bit last week on the And a Half show. I will say, and I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this because I've sat here and watched it from the start, man. I've lived this damn thing since May. The UFC is doing the right things, man. The UFC is doing everything they can to prevent this, man. They are spending a bunch of money, and they got a bunch of protocol in place, and we've seen that they're abundance of caution. That's the word that everybody uses, right? And they show it. But these fight day tests showing up positive are weird to me, man. It's like, are people not following the directions they're supposed to follow? I mean, it has to be, right? Like, it has to be people coming in town and not isolating the way they're supposed to isolate or something.
Especially when they say that they do say sometimes it could sit dormant for a couple of days before you finally test positive. Right. But you figure if they get in town on a Monday or Tuesday, that day before weigh-in, you figure they should already be popping or something. But and this was something that was brought up on the Spinning Back Click earlier this week, is that this is not a true bubble in the sense of what some of the other organizations. They are at least doing more testing than just about anybody. NFL's testing like mad crazy, but these fighters are coming and then they're kind of able to go elsewhere. They can go work out at the gym in town, and they're kind of giving them that leeway. I don't know if that's them telling them like, hey guys, we're not going to really be watching you 24/7, but stick to what
there is security getting in and out of the Residence Inn. Like, where they stay at is, you can't just, like, the general public can't get on
walk
property.
In. But they're also not keeping
They are letting people go work out, like, at Syndicate or Extreme Couture or the PI, which, the PI is secure. I know that they're doing that, like, small groups, individual
and they're doing plenty
sessions.
of testing with the staff there. Like, you're not going to get it initially from there, but it's just interesting.
You shouldn't be able to leave that hotel. You shouldn't be able to leave that hotel.
If it was going to be a true bubble, then yes, that would be the legit thing. But, and maybe once they get the UFC hotel better, where they have better facilities and they can control better, and then maybe we won't have that issue. But the gym there is garbage.
The gym there is.
The gym there and at that hotel is not what. It would suit maybe a couple, pieces of crap like us or me, I mean, but as for a high-level athlete trying to cut weight and trying to get a good sweat on,
it's typical what you would think of just generic hotel chain across,
but even,
you know.
But even less, because it's a very small room, and it's a very small hotel thing. But I could see why they would want to allow them to cut weight in a better facility and to get a real good sweat on or whatever.
I just feel like, man,
but
I just feel like we're going to get this 3-week pause, and it looks like we're going to go to Abu Dhabi. And then when we come back, depending on how the numbers are and how things are going, like, I feel like they got to look at that and say, man, PI only. You know what I mean? Hotel or PI only, and you're on this transport bus that we provide for you. You're not getting in an Uber. You know what I mean? Like, because you are right. They need access to training facilities. And they've done the thing where, we turn this hotel room. I mean, they just throw down some mats in a hotel room, which is suitable to get a sweat on and to maybe just hit some mitts. And,
if you brought your own mitts.
But if you really want to get a drill in, or you need to get on like an Airdyne or use a spa or
you
need
whatever. To get in the sauna.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be able to do that at the Residence Inn. So I get that you would want access to the PI. And I know that scheduling's a pain in the ass for them. But I don't know, man. There's so many of these fight day pauses. Like, I get it. The ones that...
Or even bringing them even earlier.
Yeah.
Bring them a week early. But again, you still have to have them restricted. The movement has to be restricted to where you could trust that the system works out.
Right.
The fact that they only bring them in a couple days before the weigh-in, you don't give a time for if something is late and it doesn't show up in the test. They need to have multiple tests before they get to the weigh-in thing. So if that means bringing them in earlier, so the week before or whatever, but I mean, that's a lot to ask of a fighter to leave family even more. But there needs to be some days, more than 2 days. They need to get there. I mean, because a lot of times they'll get there on Tuesdays, and then, so if they're not testing on Thursday, or if they're not testing again on, they're testing weigh-in day, and then they're getting popped later on that day.
It's crazy.
They have to have something before that somehow. Even bring them in on Sunday. If you don't want to do the week before, bring them in on Sunday. Test them on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then you should hopefully have something by Thursday.
But then you still got to restrict that movement while they're there.
You got to restrict the movement.
It's got to be closer to a bubble, man. Like, I mean, it's close, but it's got to be closer. You know what I mean? Like,
I think you're right if they restrict it to the PI, but even then, the PI, while it's a big facility, while it is large, still is limited in what they have as well. I mean, if you have 22 athletes, and 22 need to go right now, and I need to be on some mats, and I need to be in an octagon.
Yeah, you have to schedule it out.
You don't have it.
Especially when you're talking about all the people that already live here in Vegas and are using the PI for their normal training. So
that's it. They don't. It's not like they shut it down.
Yeah, it's not like it's just those 22 athletes that have access to it. It's also the 40 or 50 that live here as that are training also. So it's not ideal, but this. And listen, at the end of the day, it's the UFC's product. They're the ones that got protected. But I do know that, and I've seen this from more than one person, and I get it too, is that it's hard to get excited about cards because, like, fights are falling off the day of. You know what I mean? So you just kind of like, it's like you basically just go, well, we'll see what we get when we get there. It's hard to even like.
That's kind of become the thing, hasn't
that's
it?
That's
it, man. That's kind of what it's become.
That makes it. I think that makes it tough for fans, especially. I mean, tough for us too. But like, you don't even want to worry too much about the card because the card might completely fall apart by the time you get. You might have different people fighting each other, fight scratch. You know what I mean? So that's why I think the UFC has to get control of this because it does have impact on. Because ultimately, what do they care? I mean, as long as they're getting their TV money, right? But it does affect fans, I think, and that's what you're trying to do, right? Is you're trying to make sure the fans. So if the fans start losing interest because they're like, bro, I don't even know what's going to be on Saturday. That's a bad thing.
I mean, the bubble worked in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
The bubble worked. It shows that if you keep everybody in a tight, sealed environment, fights and people will stay clean and fights happen. So if they realize it works there, just take that same mentality. It's just a lot to ask. And it's a lot to provide, telling somebody that especially when you have to provide 3 days, 3 times a day, your food, you have to supply everything.
It's a lot for the staff.
It's a huge undertaking, but we see that it works. And we see that it works in other sports when they completely go inside a bubble. So that is clearly the only way if they want to lessen this trend that seems to be happening because it's going further and further in the direction that we're losing more and more fights every time. And, that last week was just crazy. To show up at the event and they still were trying to figure out what was going on because they just found out that they lost fights. I had to turn around and then they're like, come back in 2 hours. I'm like, 2 hours?
I do the same thing. I was quarantined at the hotel, so I drove up onto the thing and to the Apex, and they wouldn't let me in.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, no. I was like, yeah, I heard some fights are being scratched. They're trying to figure it out. They're like, yeah, so you can't even come back for like 2 hours. And same thing, right? Like, you can come back in 2 hours. So I messaged PR, and I'm like, can I go home? And they're like, no, you're in quarantine. So they're like, you got to go back to the hotel. So I got to go back to the hotel where I'm quarantined. And I had to like, can I please get my room key back even though I told you I was leaving? And they were like, yeah, well, fortunately, it's still right here. Here you go. You know what I mean? It's just weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like I'm trying to act like, bro, I had to drive an extra 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's just, it's
a lot.
Scramble.
That's a lot for me.
Really,
that's a lot.
But, I mean, I was super inconvenienced by having to turn my car around and drive 5 minutes. But it's just weird.
I drove around for 2 hours.
Did you really? You just drove around for 2 hours?
I stopped somewhere and got some meat. I was like, man, I don't want to drive 20 minutes back home. I was like, let me just find somewhere to go.
See, I was technically in quarantine, so I wasn't even supposed to go eat anything. They were like, just go straight back to the hotel. I was like,
by the time you got back to your hotel, I was probably sitting in your parking lot trying to find something just to waste time. Because I sat there for a minute and played a game on my phone. I was like, now what do I do? And I was like, don't go home. Don't go home. Because if I go home, I don't get back in the car.
Not coming back out. That's funny. So hopefully they get a hold of that. Like I said, it looks like, hey, man, we got to get through this week, and then we got one more week. Then we got the little Christmas break. Obviously, the Roadshow won't be taking a Christmas break. We've been covering 298 consecutive weeks. That means we're nearing that big 300 mark. We'll knock that out before the end of the year. Then we get a little break, and then, again, it looks like we're going back to Abu Dhabi. Still don't have the official word on that. I'm sure they'll probably give it to us 3 days before we're supposed to leave or something like that. We'll figure it all out. But hopefully, when we come back after that, there's a little bit more restrictions in place. So we got this thing under control. I think everybody on staff is just ready to get to that little 3-week break, man. It's been a grind for everybody all year long. So I think there's probably a little bit of fatigue on everybody's plate right now. So
no.
Anyway, no fatigue here, though, baby. We're covering it. I'm going to go home.
Is that buffer juice in your throat?
Got a little bit of buffer juice in your throat. Wow, that sounds terrible. Puncher's Chance.
This is not an advertising. This is just, we love having Buffer's juice in our throat.
Puncher's Chance. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Get a little bit of Buffer's juice in your throat.
Get it in your throat.
Wow, we are just ridiculous. I'm 42 years old and have a son that I'm supposed to be raising.
Well, good thing he doesn't listen to Dad's podcast.
I'll be 12 years old for the rest of my life, mentally speaking. All right, listen, we'll both be covering UFC 256. I'm going to go try to get some sleep. I got to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and get started. Then I'll meet you at the weigh-ins. We'll have it all covered. And, of course, we'll do the and a half after UFC 256. So make sure, if you haven't already, sign up at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Give us a little support. $3 a month. You can be there for as little as $3 a month. We appreciate it. It helps go a long way towards us funding this podcast that we enjoy doing with you every single week without fail. 298 consecutive weeks without a missed show. That's how we do it.
That's how we do.
In the meantime, thanks for listening.